Hello, happy Thursday. Thank you guys for waiting. Have you guys been waiting for me? I've been waiting for me. I cannot believe the technical challenges I'm having today on Terrific Thursday. So you guys know who I am. I am Dr. Terry, MD. I'm your board certified neonatologist and pediatrician, and I specialize in the care of high-risk infants as well as term infants. And my mission through my books, my webinars, my public speaking, and in my courses is to empower providers as well as neonatal staff to help families who have to make difficult choices so that they can navigate the NICU journey with the gift of hope. So that really is the core of the mission of Dr. Terry, MD, is to make sure every interaction I leave that family with the gift of hope. And I believe that we all should have that really as a goal in all our interactions. And so today is day 4 of NICU Awareness Week. Like, can you guys believe it? It is day 4 of NICU Awareness Week. So big shout out to all of those who've been with me the whole week. I really, really appreciate you guys for hanging in there with me. It's been lots and lots of fun, and the feedback has been amazing. So on Monday, we talked about newborn screening. And then on Tuesday, we talked about the most common problems that we do see in the ICU nursery. And then yesterday, we talked about the biggest questions that I receive from families over my 20 years, families who have sick babies in the nursery. What are the most common questions that they have? But today, we're going to talk about what do we do when the baby does not get better? How do we support those families? And really, there is no part of NICU awareness that you can really discuss if you don't address the babies that don't get better. So for those of us who work in the ICU nursery, for those of us who do take care of sick babies, we understand that not every baby that we take care of is going to get better. I understand that. Only God is in control. That is my belief system. But I believe I'm a conduit for His will, and I'm there to minister and support families. So I absolutely, absolutely know and understand that we will not be able to save every baby. But we can endeavor to save the human spirit at what can be a very, very challenging time in the lives of family and extended family members. So we cannot prevent deaths, but we can certainly make the death worse. We can make the grieving process for families worse. We can make the bereavement for families worse. So I think that we all should have an understanding of how are we going to support those families if the babies don't get better. Hello, hello, hello. I see you guys out there. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you. I had some technical difficulties, but it's day 4. We're going to press on. Day 4 of NICU Awareness Week with Dr. Terry, MD, and we've learned a lot this week. And so today I thought it would be really fitting to do my live stream from my pink prayer room. So a lot of you guys have asked me about this room, and this is a room in my house that is a place of solace for me. I get a lot of strength in this room, and of course it's a powerful pink color. There are a lot of studies that show actually that pink is a very powerful color. So this is my dream room, my prayer room, my meditation room. Is my own little space in my house. And I wanted to do my last stream here for you guys. So today, what do we do if the baby does not get better? Okay, how do we talk to families about that? What is neonatal palliative care? So neonatal palliative care is care that improves the quality of life for babies and families. So in the shortest sense, neonatal palliative care improves the quality of life for babies and families. So as I mentioned, we know that not every baby in the ICU nursery is going to survive. We know that. But we still have a responsibility to support those families through that journey. Our work does not end when we find out that a baby has a condition that we will not be able to fix. And in fact, a lot of times our work is just beginning as we begin to walk alongside that family and partner with them in their grief. And so these are conversations that we don't necessarily want to think about, but it's a part of our job in the ICU nursery to walk with those families. Another aspect of neonatal palliative care is a field called perinatal hospice. And perinatal hospice is a relatively new phenomenon. So 20 years ago, if you had a baby who had a condition that we knew that we were not going to be able to fix, that we knew that we were not going to be able to treat, you were actually counseled by the medical profession to terminate your pregnancy. We believed at that time that mothers would grieve less if they did not have to carry a pregnancy to term, that involved a baby that had a condition that we could not treat. But we now understand that grief continues whether you carry your baby to term, whether you lose your baby at a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 10 weeks, 16 weeks, or stillbirth. All of those mothers grieve the loss of a normal pregnancy. And depending on who you are, your ability to engage with the loss of that pregnancy is going to be different. And we need to present families with different choices. We need to honor the life that was here. We need to honor the family that is experiencing the loss of that life. And we need to give the family choices even in the midst of loss. So that is huge. So for me, the conversation does not end with your baby has something that we cannot treat. Your baby is going to die. We do not leave families with the understanding that that's the end of the conversation. And then we just wait until the baby dies. We follow that conversation with, I'm really, really sorry that we're in this situation. I'm really sorry that your baby has something that we will not be able to fix. But in the time that we do have with your baby, in the time that you have with your baby, how would you like to honor your baby's life? What opportunities would you like to have to make that time special? Whatever time it is. Nobody knows how long the time is. Often families are told that a baby may die shortly after delivery, but I've seen many babies who I thought may have a condition where they were going to die shortly after delivery, and they did not die shortly after delivery. I've seen babies who had lethal conditions who we said to families they would not survive and they would not be able to go home, and they did go home. They did die later, but they did not die in the hospital. And for many families, the opportunity to be able to just take their baby home, to have their baby sleep in their own bed, have their baby wear an outfit or a christening outfit that has been special in the family, that's huge. It's huge to give them the opportunity to make those memory-making moments. And if we don't give them the opportunity to do so, if we don't ask them, they don't even know that that's an option that they have. So what I want to talk about is what we actually do in the neonatal, in the field of neonatal palliative care if we find that your baby has a condition that we will not be able to treat. So often I get to meet these families prior to delivery. That's the most ideal situation so that everybody has a chance to plan. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes the baby's born at delivery and we find out at delivery that the baby has something that we're not going to be able to treat. Or sometimes the baby's been very stable and then the baby becomes unstable and we have to have different conversations. But ideally, if we get to meet the family before and we're talking to the family about their precious baby and how hard that is to be preparing to say hello and goodbye, and understanding that for this family, the whole sum of their experience with their baby may be the pregnancy. It may be the bonding during the pregnancy, feeling the baby kicking, feeling the baby moving, and worrying that once the baby's born, you won't be able to count those fingers and toes or hear that baby's voice. This is huge. So for our families who have babies who are not going to survive, what I really want providers and staff and friends and family to understand is that these families need just as much care as those families who have babies who are not sick, as those families who have babies that have conditions that we can treat. We have to partner alongside those families, and we have to give them choices where they thought they didn't have choices. So normally we would sit down with a family. We have something called our palliative care brochure. It's a wish list, and we talk about we are going to prepare for the worst, but we're going to expect the best, okay? We're going to prepare for the worst, but we're going to still expect the best. And in expecting the best, how would you like to honor your child? How would you like to spend those moments with your child? And so we start from the top of the list, and I usually like to think of the list as who, what, where. So who do you want to be in the delivery? We don't want to assume that if where a baby is being born that's very sick, or a baby that has a condition that we may not be able to treat, that they want everyone in the delivery room. They may not want all the grandparents in the delivery room. They may not want all the family in the delivery room. It may just need to be mom and dad or the siblings if they choose. We need to ask them, who do you want present for your baby's birth? Who do you want present for your baby's birth? Who do you want present as we're preparing to say hello and goodbye? So that's the first thing. Who do they want to be present? The second thing is what. Once the baby's here, how do we want to honor that time with the baby? What are the things that they would like to see? Do they want to have pictures taken? There are organizations like Now Lay Me Down to Sleep that will do formal photos for families so that they can get that precious photo with their newborn in that limited time that they have. That may be the only picture that the family has while the baby's alive. So we want to make sure we extend that to them if that's something that they desire. Do they have a faith culture where they want the baby to be baptized? If they want the baby to be baptized, we need to ask them. And we also need to ask them if they want their own clergy there. We don't want to assume that they want to use the hospital clergy. They may want their own priest there. They may want their own pastor there. They may want their own rabbi there, or whatever their faith is. And we won't know unless we ask. We need to ask if there are special items of clothing that they would like the baby to wear. We have clothes in the hospital, but a lot of times when a family has been told that a baby has a condition that they will not survive, they just start focusing on that, and they do have an outfit that they really would have liked the baby to put on. And it's nice to be able to ask them that if that's their desire. What is mom going to do with her breast milk? Even if the baby does pass very shortly after birth, or even in the first week after the birth, the mom is still going to have milk, and that milk's going to be a reminder of her baby. Often moms may be at the funeral leaking breast milk, and we need to be able to talk to them about how they want to handle that. Some moms keep pumping in memory of their babies, and they donate to a breast milk bank. Other moms need help understanding how we need to slow down the milk supply. So we need to have that conversation. Do we need sibling support? Do they need follow-up after the baby's passed so that they can get through their bereavement process? Many moms have guilt if they have a baby that was premature, if they have a baby that has some birth defects. Many moms and sometimes dads will have guilt. Is it something that I did? Is it something that I ate? Is it because I had an x-ray? Is it because I took this medicine? And it's really important to give them some time afterwards to kind of debrief, particularly if it's a baby where there's going to be an autopsy or follow-up and you can come back and talk to the family. That's really, really helpful for the family to know that you're still thinking about them and that you're going to be present with them. So we go through the wish list, the what, and we also go through the what this will look like. So often people have seen death on TV, and they believe that when we die, we will take our last breath in our sleep. They think that for adults. And they think that for babies as well. And so it can be hard to watch an adult as well as a baby take their last breath or see some labored breathing or things that are normally associated with that process. And we have to talk to families about that because they may not be aware of that, and they may think that's a sign that the baby may have something that we can treat. And we also want to make sure that families understand that we're going to give appropriate pain control and pain management, okay? And a lot of those medicines can be oral. It depends on the baby, what they will require. Some babies will just require warmth. Some babies will require medicines. Some babies may just require sucking on a sucrose pacifier for a little sugar water. So we want to make sure that the families know that we're going to offer those things. What about caregiving activities? I had a mom tell me that the only time she felt like a mom was when she got to hold her baby after the baby passed and she actually got to do the bath. Because before that, the baby was covered with a bunch of wires and tubes and monitors. She never actually got to hold her baby. And so a lot of times in our effort to help moms or help families, we will shield them from a lot of the caregiving process. We will say, well, we'll clean the baby up and bring the baby to you. We're going to bathe the baby, wrap the baby up, and bring the baby to you. But we should ask, do you want to do the bath? In many cultures, doing the bath after death is actually the most sacred sign of love that you can offer to your loved one. And we want to make sure that we offer families that if that's something that they desire to do. Is there a chance that the baby can actually go home? So what if the baby has a lethal condition, but the baby can actually go home for a couple of days? Would the family rather go home than have the baby die in the hospital? Well, we won't know that unless we ask families. So we cannot assume that that's not a memory that they would not like to have of the baby sleeping in their own bed, the baby spending time with their siblings, the baby mom sitting in the rocking chair that she thought she wouldn't be able to sit in and hold her baby. We can't assume that that's not a memory that they want to have. but we won't know unless we ask them, okay? So if it is a possibility that the baby can go home and the baby is term, has a condition that's term, there are some heart conditions and some brain conditions that even though they are lethal, or some chromosome conditions, the baby may live for a couple of days or weeks or so, or even months, and the baby can still go home. But we have to make the arrangements for hospice prior to that, so that the baby can actually have a chance to go home. And in many cases, if the mom delivered vaginally, the baby can even go home that same day if the OB has cleared the mom. And they can actually have a memory that same day that is not in the hospital, if that's their desire. So the biggest issue with palliative care is you are trying to improve the quality of life for the family. You are trying to create memory-making opportunities for the family, and you are trying to give them choices at a time where they thought they did not have choices. So the conversation of saying your baby's not going to survive, we have nothing to do until your baby passes, is very different than, I'm really, really sorry that your baby is so sick and that your baby is passing. But for the time that your baby's here, how do you want to honor your baby's life? What does that look like for you? And so for even families that have really, really early losses, we have the opportunity to make molds for those families, footprints for those families, handprints for those families. We have the opportunity to do stuff with the siblings so that they have a special moment. We have the opportunity even now to take the heartbeat from the womb of a baby who may have something that we can't treat, and actually create a song for the family so they always have the womb heartbeat in the song. We have the opportunity to create so many memories for families. And one of the things that really is upsetting for families is if you are a mom or a dad and you lost a baby and you're at a hospital where options were not presented to you. You go to a support group and you meet someone there who received options that you didn't receive. They may even have a picture of their baby and you don't have a picture of your baby. So this adds to the grief. It doesn't change the fact that they missed their angel baby. They're going to miss their angel baby, and grief is ongoing. There's no such thing as resolution of grief. We learn to live with our grief. I've gone through traumatic loss myself, not the loss of a child, but the traumatic loss of a sibling, and we learn to live with our grief. But our grief is complicated when we're in situations where the opportunities to spend time with our loved one were interrupted, or the opportunities to magnify the quality of the time that we had with our loved one were not expounded. So what I would like to say in terms of giving families the gift of hope is, we are not going to be able to save every child. I understand that. We all understand that. Everybody understands that. So we understand that. We're in the ICU nursery where we have critically ill babies. And even though I get to see miracles every single day, I've met quite a few angels as well. And my care to those families is equally the same. They require the same care regardless of the outcome of their disease process. And so our job is to say to families, given what we know now, what are you hoping for? And how can I make that happen? And we've been able to make some amazing things happen in the ICU nursery for chronic babies who have conditions that they're not going to get better for, their families who just want their baby to have the ability to feel sunlight on their face. And we've been able to find a way to get the baby outside so the baby could feel sunlight on their face. Okay, bringing siblings into the nursery when before we did not allow siblings to be in the nursery, so that their siblings can see their brother or sister while their brother or sister is still alive. These are changes we've made based on families who gave us feedback, and it's wonderful feedback, because although I have a passion for this community, I don't know what it's like to have experienced loss. I don't know what it's like to have a baby that was desperately wanted who I have to say bye. I do not know what that's like. And that keeps me very honest. Only the family knows what that's like. And my job is, within their understanding of what that's like, to find a way to give them some hope in the midst of despair. To find a way to honor the life that is here for the time that is here. Because no one, you're alive until you're dead. And so the baby is alive. And we want to celebrate the life while the life is here. And we want to make sure we participate in rituals that will allow the family to have those experiences. So if it's dressing the baby, allow the family to do that if that's what they want to do. That may be the only time that mom gets to dress the baby. If it's giving the baby a bath, allow the mom to do that. It may be the only time she gets to do that. If it's taking a picture, singing a silly song, calling in now, lay me down to sleep so they can get that family photo, please allow the family to do that. If they want to try to go home with hospice and it's feasible, at least make the phone call. It may not be feasible, but you may have rooms in your hospital that don't look like hospital rooms that would still allow the family time to bond. If it's receiving a blessing from their own faith-based community, then allow the family to do that. So whatever it is, if you're able to make that happen for the family, please do that. So one, we know that not all babies are going to survive, but they still require our care and our attention and our support to navigate hope. Two, ask them, given what we know now, what would they like to do? What choices would they like to have? What are they hoping for now? We obviously were hoping for a baby that was totally normal and not sick. But now we have a baby that is sick. So given what we have now, what's on their wish list? What's on their wish list? Have them write out their wish list and see if that's something your hospital or your staff can meet for the family. Okay? And then three, make sure we provide resources for them after discharge from the hospital to continue to support them because their grief is ongoing. So we talked about moms who have babies who may not survive. They may continue to leak milk. We talked about the value of support groups. We talked about the value of shared experiences between families. And for many families, it will be valuable to do a debrief afterwards. And I absolutely think we should offer a debrief to all families. Not everyone will want one, but many times they do. One of the things I really enjoy is that most of my hospitals, we've been able to do something called have a NICU memorial every year where we have those families come back whose babies who did lose their babies or whose babies are now angel babies. And we have a special ceremony where we get to read the names of each of those babies. Some years they get a flower or a rose. Some years we release butterflies. We do activities for the siblings. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. But the most powerful thing about that ceremony, and I learned this from a family, is that they get to hear the name of their child being read during the ceremony. They get to hear the name of the child. So if you lose your child, you don't just lose that immediate newborn period. You lose the whole experience of their childhood as a parent and their young adulthood and whatever dreams you may have had for your child. So they're not going to be able to hear their baby's name read at graduation. They're not going to be able to hear their baby's name read at college. They're not going to be able to hear their baby's name read during the wedding, So they're not going to have the opportunity to hear the name. They know their child's name, and they will not forget their baby's name. Their angel baby is here forever, but they're not going to be able to hear it. So to have a forum where you can validate and you can say out loud the name of their child. Just think, those of you who have children, think about the names of your children and how much thought you gave into giving them their name. My kids have long names and 3 and 4 names, probably too many names. But we gave a lot of thought to their names and we enjoy saying their names. So having a space where we can say those names and say, hey, we remember your baby. We remember your child. We remember your family. That's very healing because there's a lot of support immediately after loss. There's not a lot of support later, and families will continue to need support. So those are the main things that I wanted to say in terms of what about those families whose babies are not going to survive? So we've already said we know that not every baby is going to survive in the ICU nursery. We know that there are going to be some difficult conversations and some difficult choices, but it doesn't mean that families don't have choices. And it also doesn't mean that families can't still have hope. And it's our job to kind of partner alongside with them in their grief, and they get to choose how they grieve. We don't get to choose how they grieve, and they get to choose how they want to say bye. We don't get to choose how they say bye, but we do need to offer them options to navigate that process, okay? So not every baby's going to survive. We need to talk to families about what the options are. Once we find out a baby has a condition we're not going to be able to treat, we need to talk to families about what that looks like when their baby is passing. And 4, we need to make sure that families have support afterwards, after the after they leave the ICU nursery. And if you're at a nursery that does a memorial service, that's great. If you don't do one, maybe you should consider doing that for your families. So I hope you guys found that helpful. Thank you so much for keeping up with Dr. Terry MD this week for NICU Awareness Week. It's been my pleasure. And then next week we will resume with our regular Tuesdays, Dr. Terry's Tips. You guys know who I am. I'm Dr. Terry MD. I'm your board certified pediatrician and neonatologist, and I specialize in the care of sick-term infants as well as preterm infants. And my goal is to what? Train providers as well as staff to empower families with the gift of hope as they navigate the NICU journey. And I do that through my talks, my books, my courses, and my live streams. You guys be blessed, and I hope you're having a terrific Thursday. Thank you for joining me, and especially big thank you to the replay viewers and all those of you who are sharing. I really, really appreciate it. So don't forget to put in the comments if there are more things you want to hear about that we haven't addressed, or if you have more questions about this topic. It's one of my favorite topics. I'd be happy to talk about it. You guys be blessed, okay? Bye-bye.